Hello, welcome, audience. I don't even know where to get started. We have such a special guest today, Dr. Nina Savelle-Rocklin, better known as Dr. Nina. And she is a speaker, she's an author. She actively works directly with people, helping them specifically with binge eating disorders. She has done it all. I'm going to get straight to her. Dr. Nina, thank you for being here and sharing your time with us. You know, I'm so amazed by your story. Would you please start out by letting the audience know what led you to this beautiful service for others?
Well, I would be happy to. Thank you for having me. So, picture this. I'm a brand new therapist, and I'm about to start my very first group for women with binge eating disorder. And I go into the room, and there's the group, and they're all much older than me. They all kind of look me up and down. And one woman, like bright red hair in her 50s, she totally terrified me. She looked me up and down and she said, "So, what does a skinny bitch like you know about binge eating disorder?"
Uh-oh.
Well, what she didn't know was I once considered myself the poster child for eating disorders. But what I said was, this skinny bitch once scarfed down an entire box of gingerbread cookies in about 15 minutes flat. And I hate gingerbread. I mean, I hate gingerbread, but I couldn't stop eating those cookies. And I
Mm.
told the group that when I was 5 years old, I came to believe that if I were thinner, I would be better. And that began the descent into eating disorder hell. So I was always on some crazy restrictive diet. Eventually, my willpower would fail because it always does. And then I would binge and sometimes I would purge. And that's why I considered myself the poster child for eating disorders, because I had all of them. And
Right.
finally, in college, I went to therapy for anxiety. I talked about all the things, guys and my family and friends and future and goals. I never talked about food, not once, because I was too embarrassed. I was too mortified. So nobody knew the truth of what I was doing with food. But by the time I left treatment, in which I was talking about like my relationship with myself and turning my inner critic into my friend and, really changing my relationship with me, by the time I left treatment, all my eating disorders were gone for good. I wasn't in recovery. I was liberated. I was done. It was behind me. And people say, well, how do you get rid of all eating disorders without ever talking about food? Because not once, not a single time did I ever talk about food with my therapist, because it
Right.
wasn't about food. Binge eating disorder, emotional eating, it is not about food. It's it's a frenemy, right? It does something for you. And and it also hurts you, but it's doing something for you. It's comforting you, it's distracting you, it's numbing you, it's symbolically filling you up, whatever it is. When you find a new way of being a friend to yourself, that's when everything changes. That's when it changed for me. And by the way, why at age 5 did I think, oh, there's too much of me, I should lose weight, age 5? Because my parents were very scholarly academic college professors, are very scholarly academic college professors. And they were always like, you're too loud, you're too emotional, you got to calm down, you're too sensitive. So my
Oh, good.
5-year-old mind took that, you're too much was the message, as, oh, there must be too much of me because 5-year-olds are concrete. And so
Mm.
this really points to the psychology of, if you want to lose weight, if you want to change your relationship with food, don't focus on food. You will never meet your goal. The only way to meet your goal is to look at why. It's about why power, not willpower. Got to look at why you're doing something you don't want to do instead of focusing on what you're doing. I like to say it's not logical, it's psychological. Made a cup.
I
It's
love
not logical, it's psychological, to remind people. Um, And when you understand the psychology behind what you're doing that you don't want to do, or you're doing something, you're not doing something you want to do, there's always a reason. And if you can put on your detective hat and look at your why, you can solve the mystery and you can create change and you can get to where you want to go.
Wow. First of all, it does break my heart because I know that your parents did not mean that in a manner for, the way that you processed as a 5-year-old. And I think of us as parents and our wounded selves going around and parenting others. And so that's so heartbreaking. And yet you share such hope, that
Mhm.
it's just it's just unreal to be okay with ourselves, but also for any of us that are parents and grandparents, it's such a beautiful a beautiful reminder for us to be maybe listen and observe more and think through what we're sharing. So you've given us a little extra lesson. Thank you for that. And the next thing is the why. I love that. It has nothing to do with the food.
I have a great example of this with one of my patients who I call Jenna because, well, it's not her real name. But before I tell about Jenna's story, I want to say this. Most of the people I treat are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s, who have struggled for decades. And yet, despite struggling for decades, they are able to make changes pretty fast and meet their goals because for decades they were focusing on the wrong thing. When you focus on the right thing, everything changes. So there is hope no matter how long you've struggled with food or anything, right? There's always hope. So
Ah, and here comes Jenna.
Jenna. So Jenna, she comes in and she knows that I do not believe in food addiction. And she said, "Hey, Dr. Nina, maybe some of your other people are struggling with emotional eating or something like that." But she tells me she is a food addict. She's like, "I know you don't believe in food addiction, but I'm a food addict and I can prove it." So I said, "Okay, I'm all ears." So she tells me that the night before she was Netflix and chilling. She's watching TV. Everything is fine. Nothing was bothering her. Nothing emotional was going on. Things were going well. When suddenly, as she put it, Ben and Jerry's was calling her name. She's
Oh
like,
yeah.
calling my name. I'm addicted to Chunky Monkey. So, well, wait a minute. Let's like,
Giggling because I
what?
understand.
Okay. What were you watching on TV before Ben and Jerry started calling your name? So it's Charmed, her favorite guilty pleasure. And she thinks that because she's watching something she enjoys, there is no reason she would want to go down a pint of ice cream. What was the episode about? I ask her. Oh, it's when this demon comes down, breaks the bond between the sisters. They start fighting. Everything gets really contentious and horrible and awful. I know Jenna has a terrible relationship with her sister. So all I
Wow.
say is, "Oh, sisters fighting, huh?" And
How
that's
about
when she gave me the Home Alone, like, oh, that's when she got like, oh, watching the show activated her own discomfort about her sister, her anger, her pain, her all the feelings. But before it was consciously reaching her awareness, she went to ice cream for comfort and distraction. Ice cream was not the problem. It was the solution to the real problem, which is her difficulty dealing with her relationship with a very difficult sister. So
wow.
that's what we worked on. And guess what? I taught her new ways of comforting herself, new ways of thinking about her relationship with her sister, new ways of talking with her sister who did not change, but Jenna changed the way she felt about it. And guess what? Ice cream stopped calling her name.
Wow. That first of all, I love that y'all got into, okay, what was this Charmed movie about? And you knew her well enough to know that she was triggered because of that. That's really amazing. Triggers have such power,
We
especially those
think
that we're not aware of.
Right. She thought she was triggered by ice cream. We are not triggered by food. We are triggered by something in our lives that make us uncomfortable that we don't want to look at. And we go to, in the case of people that I help, we go to food for distraction, comfort as a way of coping. It's a negative coping strategy.
Wow. You know, I'm wondering if the audience, can y'all believe how awesome she is, Dr. Nina? That I really, I want to tie this into, as you and I spoke briefly pre-show, why in the world would we be talking about binge eating and eating disorders and that sort of thing when we are really, how does all this relate to rounding out the year, setting our intentions, goals, resolutions, and then sticking with those throughout next year?
So there are some logical things and some psychological things because most people will say, "Well, I want to stop binging or I want to lose weight." And then they focus on food instead of focusing on their why. You got to be, I call myself a detective of the mind. Got to be a detective and look at your why. And in my books and my YouTube channel, my podcast, all of those things, you can get more information about how do you discover your why if you're not sitting in a room across from me asking you questions. Like there is a way to do that. But the focus is on the behavior and not on what's leading to the behavior. And I liken it to a weed and a root. Like you don't have to be a gardener to know that if you pluck a weed, it is going to grow back because there's a weed there that is growing. There's a root there that's growing the weed. And you got to do some emotional gardening and find that root and dig it out so that it's gone forever. That's why I don't believe in recovery. I believe in liberation. Like I said before, you don't have to always be struggling with this. So if you're listening to this and you're like, yes, I want to lose weight, I want to change my relationship with food, don't focus on food. Focus on what's eating at you, not what you are eating. Ask yourself, if I'm turning to food, what problem is this solving? And above all, and I cannot stress this enough, do not go on a diet. Diets lead to binge eating or lead to overeating or lead to emotional eating because we want what we cannot have. And if
Mm,
you're sitting there thinking all day about, I am not going to eat pizza, pasta, chips, ice cream, anything with a carb, I won't, then you've got food on your mind all day. And eventually your willpower will fail because it always does. And then you're
mhm.
going to eat all the things. And then you're going to say, oh my God, I can't believe it. I got to start my diet again tomorrow. So don't
Yeah,
diet.
you're bringing something up that I love. First of all, I love a why, and I love to share that one of the ways I believe a tool to stick to whatever it is we hope to build or create or achieve, whatever word you choose, because success is so different for each of us. I like to think that the why, if it's a big enough why, an important enough why, if we keep coming back to the why, we can keep doing the work, taking the next step. But I love that you're thinking about why are we doing the eating? It's
Yeah.
it's that same figuring out our whys. It's so important.
And I think and yeah, like your why, what do you want from that? But like again, that's a great thing to keep in mind. Like keep your eye on the prize, right? Why? Why do you when you lose weight, then what? When you get to that size, then what? What is it you're really wanting? Think to your
Right.
point. And then I find, and now this is more logical, that was psychological, this is more logical, which is people give up too easily.
Ah,
Success is not, success is dip. What is the saying? Fall down 7 times, get up 8. And
right.
I tell people two things. One, think about baby steps. When a baby first learns to walk, what do they do? Inevitably, they fall. They fall down. And no one says, "Oh my God, that baby fell down. That baby is never going to walk. Like, give it up, baby. You're going to be crawling for life. It's ridiculous, but that's exactly what we say to ourselves. Oh my God, I did this wrong thing that I don't want to do. I blew it. Now it's all over. And with food, how this shows up is, oh, I ate the cookie. Well, I blew it. Then you have black and white thinking, I might as well have all the cookies. And then, by
Yeah,
the way, the ice cream, the pizza, the this and this, and now you're in a binge.
right.
Versus, yeah, okay, you fell down, like, normalize that. You had a cookie. First of all, there's nothing wrong with having a cookie. It's like, are you eating to resolve something emotional, or are you just having a freaking cookie because sometimes you just wanna have a cookie or 2 or whatever. So, like, remember that falling down is part of the process. It's that Michael Jordan quote, right, about failure, about how many times he failed to win he failed to get this shot. I think it was like 1,000 times I missed the winning shot, 26 times I whatever. I can't remember the quote, but it's so I'm not articulating it very well. But look up Michael Jordan's
Well, it
quote.
is.
It's
How, if
amazing.
he focused on how many he missed was the point, he would I mean, and I don't know how many thousands of shots that he did make. And I
Yes.
can't remember the
So,
numbers either, but it is a fabulous quote.
yeah. So often people give up too easily.
Yes.
Or another analogy I like to make is you're running a marathon. No one wakes up and says, I'm going to run 26.2 miles. You got to train for it. You got to prepare for it mentally and physically and emotionally. And then you know what you do? You run half a mile
That's right.
and then another half a mile. And eventually you build up, and you have to encourage yourself. A few years ago, I did the Susan G. Komen 60-mile walk for breast cancer. And
Fab-
we're all about 5 miles in, and 2 people had signs, more than 2 people. These are the signs that I remember. One person had a sign that said, only 55 more miles, which is so dispiriting and discouraging. And other people had signs that said, 5 miles down, way to go, you've got this. So if we think about those signs as ways that we speak to ourselves, are you saying to yourself, oh, okay, I did 5 miles, but I have 55 miles to go? Oh, I
Right.
lost 5 pounds, but I have, X many pounds to go. It seems horrible. You're going to get discouraged. But if you say, "Hey, I've done it this far. I may not be at the finish line, but I'm not at the starting gate.
That's
Yay
right.
me." Then you're encouraging yourself. And this is the problem that I see with everybody that I treat. They don't know how to encourage themselves. They discourage themselves instead. And then they end up feeling bad. And you can't make yourself feel bad and feel good at the same time. So you end up, you know, eating cookies to escape your own mean voice.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. The gap, they're thinking of the gap rather than the gain. And they're not celebrating. And I say they only because I've practiced it so much. I was guilty many, many, many more years than I care to admit. And through practice, constant practice of reminding myself, oh, yeah, but what have I done? Even if it was just 1 or 2 steps, or it's
Yeah.
a beautiful thing. Now, as we talk about rounding out this year and moving in to the new year, it seems like the very first step is everybody needs to get your book, The Binge Cure. That's number one. And then from that, do you suggest a particular plan? Do you suggest the workbook to figure out these whys? What are your ideas to help people set up for a successful new year with their eating?
Well, one of my favorite reviews of my book was, "This is not even a book about binge eating. This is a book about life. This is about changing your relationship with yourself." So I
Right.
wrote the book because it's all about getting to the roots. And then how do you talk to yourself? How, if you're used to being mean to yourself, how do you cultivate a kinder way of being with yourself? How do you identify what's going on? How do
Yeah.
you, learn to express yourself? How do you learn to respond to yourself? How do you encourage yourself? How can you learn to be with yourself? It's all in the book. And then I did the journal, which is it's a guided workbook. It's really a workbook, which is all about your relationship with yourself. So because people would write me and say, I love your book and I can't do your program right now, but will you, like, what can I do? And so I just decided, you know what, I'm going to give you a roadmap of what to do, how to activate self-love, how to support yourself, how to identify what's going on with you, how to be different with yourself, others, and with food.
I love this because really this is very healing for and meditative for all areas of life, not just this food.
Yes, I
I mean,
co-edited
fab
yeah, I co-edited a book called Beyond the Primal Addiction, like a scholarly academic book. So no one should read it. But the point of it,
I
unless you're in
love
this
that.
field, unless you're a psychoanalyst. But the point of the book was really that all coping strategies are addictions. All addictions are coping strategies. So if it's shopping too much and you want to, stop spending so much money, look at why you're shopping. If you're always on your computer and you're addicted to your phone, what's that doing for you? If whatever it is that's going on, whatever behavior you want to change, and a lot of times people create behavioral goals for the new year when really it would be helpful to create more uh like insight oriented, or instead of I'm going to stop doing this, I'm going to start doing this, I'm going to understand myself better, or I'm going to be more cognizant of what my why, because those are actually the steps that lead you to the goal, the behavioral goal you want.
Yeah, I think this is so brilliant and so important as we start thinking about the new year. And the bottom line is to be able to grow, to go within. And I love to talk about, what we do for ourselves, we're doing for others. And what we do for others, we're doing for ourselves. So, understanding ourselves better, it's not really, it's interesting. I think we hesitate to give ourselves the time to know ourselves better. We're so learning about others, and that's all wonderful. However, if we don't know ourselves, how do we cope?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just brilliant. I hope we'll be able to have another conversation soon. And maybe we'll check in with the audience throughout the new year and see how they're doing. And I can't wait to get the feedback. Thank you so much for your time. I know how much the audience is going to get from this. And of course, audience, I'll say thank you for all of us to the dear doctor and her generous gift. You'll have all the links to be able to follow, to listen to the podcast, to get the books, and all the ways where we can continue to learn from Dr. Nina. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a
Oh,
pleasure to be here.
oh my goodness. Okay, we will talk again soon. And thank you again.
You're welcome.
See you soon, audience.